Hey everybody, this is David and Alice with Savvy Organics Farm. We thought we'd make a year-end video for you showing our progress this year.
Today is December 31st, 2018, and we have come a long way, we think, since October 2017.
So one of the things we did this year was we went to a permaculture class to learn how to raise worms.
It was put on by the Texas Worm Farm at the Trinity Haymarket in Dallas. We also took a class on rain harvesting that was put on by the Texas A&M Water University and learned all about rain barrels.
So after learning about the rain harvesting, we almost immediately began to use the rainwater we captured out of the barrels and did some drip irrigation that worked out pretty well. So in the winter and early spring, we started putting in our first beds using a single row plow on our tractor.
We started our kitchen garden about 20 years ago, and 8 years ago switched over to raised beds.
Some things are just for fun. We just enjoy to grow things, so we tried some grapevines.
Behind the grapes we have some fruit trees, pears, plums, and peaches.
So in the spring we continued our progress by bringing in some additional compost materials and continued to build and work on the beds and the soil.
We put in some asparagus, some berry beds, the tomatoes. We even planted some more fruit trees. We have some apple trees that hopefully will do good here in our zone.
So in late spring through early summer we began to be able to harvest our blueberries, which did pretty well this year.
Here I am picking the first blueberry of the season.
Out of a blackberry patch.
Yeah, that one blueberry is
Misplaced.
There's our raspberries, and here are all our other blueberries.
So one of the gardening methods that we learned about is called Back to Eden gardening. It's a way to build soil in poor quality soil areas. And I learned this from a fellow YouTuber, Paul Gauchi. He happens to live in the Northwest, but was a great inspiration in helping us figure out how to improve the soils here.
We love gardening just about all year long, but it's even more special when the summer berries ripen. Our berry crops include blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, and this year we hope to get our first boysenberries and loganberries from the new plants.
The transition into summer this year included replacing worn micro-irrigation lines and adding shade cloths so we could extend the growing season of the cool weather crops. During a routine farm chore of flame weeding, I accidentally caught the raised blueberry bed on fire.
I think it was going for cobbler on the vine. The plum trees were so heavy with fruit that the limbs were breaking. The chickens were getting fat from eating those on the ground, so I scooped them up and fed them to the worms in the permaculture bins.
We've been using a BioPod composter for a couple of years now to add black soldier fly larvae as a source of protein for the chickens. An extra tomato hornworm was tossed in for fun. Or was that revenge? Not sure.
The chickens and worms didn't get all the plums. We harvested more than enough.
Speaking of tomato hornworms, they were really hard on the tomato plants this year. We've also had a plague of grasshoppers all year long. We're still finding them in the covered beds and in the greenhouse. If bug pests weren't enough, we also had to deal with multiple snakes eating eggs in the chicken coop.
All work and no play is never fun, so we took a day trip to Blueberry Hill Farms in East Texas with our oldest daughter and 3 of our grandkids. It was so much fun that we might just make this an annual event.
This was a fun project. Alice and I built a new chicken brooder to house all the new chicks that we ordered. Our goal was to raise the chicks in the brooder until they were old enough to be moved to the chicken tractors in the market garden field. The brooder is 4 by 8 and large enough to raise many chicks until they're ready to be moved to the field. When we finished, we moved the chicken brooder out to the barn and put it on top of concrete blocks to allow for airflow and ventilation underneath. The chicken brooder gives us the ability to raise chicks for anyone who may want to raise backyard chickens.
Along with the challenges of insect pressure, there were several late frosts in March and April. Some of the plants that we grew from seed were stunted, possibly by the late frosts.
In the end, we ended up with plenty of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and different herbs. The squash plants did okay, but were decimated by squash bugs. It was a daily challenge to decimate them back.
Not bad overall, considering it was our first season and we were growing in mulch, compost, and overall poor soil conditions. We tried to keep the mulch wet to help it break down faster.
Another challenge was keeping the rabbits out of the sweet potatoes, so we used a solar-powered electric fence to keep the rabbits out. To be able to use the rainwater from the rain barrels at the house, we purchased a 650-gallon water storage tank.
We leveled the ground and used cinder blocks to make a raised platform. Next, we ran water lines from the barrels at the house and added a pump to move the water to the tank.
We want to use the rainwater as much as possible. So far, we've had plenty and have been able to keep the tank full. Another project that we completed was a seed starting A-frame that we're looking forward to using.
And we had one of the best helpers ever.
Our current hens are a few years old, so it was time to start using that new chicken brooder. In mid-September, our first batch of chicks arrived.
We keep them in bins in the house so we can watch them closely for the first few days. We choose breeds we raise for egg production. We like large and colorful eggs. This time we ordered a breed that we haven't had before. It's called a Whiting True Blue. We're excited to see how their eggs turn out.
The hatchery that we normally use didn't have any Cuckoo marins, so while Alice was out of town, I ordered them from a different hatchery. She was surprised when she got home and happy that we had Cuckoo marins after all. After a few days, we moved all of them to the new chicken brooder in the barn.
We were also able to add a greenhouse to the garden. It should help us with season extension. So far, it's held up well to the storms and high winds.
We bought it from Delta Canopy Company. The cost was low and their service was great. We have a friend that needed to get rid of a chicken coop, so some guys from church helped me move it to our place. Now the older hens have been moved into it to start our first pasture poultry area.
Once the chicks are big enough, they'll need a new home, so we built our first chicken tractor. It's portable and allows us to move the chickens to a new spot each day.
Moving their roosting area daily allows them to fertilize more evenly and helps to keep the manure from building up in one spot. Being outside, they can forage for grass and insects like grasshoppers and squash bugs we had so much trouble with. They also till the soil as they scratch the ground. It was so muddy the first time we moved them out of the barn that we put pine shavings down to keep them dry.
few days later, we moved them to the backyard so we could keep a close eye on them and so Grandma could see them from the back porch when they came over for Thanksgiving.
Organic chicken feed is very expensive, so we decided to start sprouting whole grains for them. The sprouted grain has great nutritional value and is easier to digest. We will still provide the laying feed and scratch grain as free choice. We also built another lighter weight chicken tractor. The chickens are now in the garden area and get moved daily. We've put them to work tilling, eating bugs, and fertilizing the soil.
In the spring, we should get lots of colorful, awesome eggs.
Now that the chickens are at work, I have to get to work plowing new ground. This clay soil is hard as concrete, but the BCS is doing the job. In 2018, we learned a lot. We had some successes, some challenges, and some failures, but we've enjoyed the journey.
We have a few goals for 2019. In the spring, we plan to host a green stand each Saturday on the farm. We plan to attend the Homesteading Life Conference in Hannibal, Missouri in the summer, and in the fall, we plan to attend the Homesteaders of America Conference in Virginia.
We created 74 YouTube videos in 2018 and look forward to making more. Hopefully they'll be better as we continue to learn. We get lots of inspiration from other YouTube channels and appreciate their work. Learn from and subscribe to some of our favorite YouTubers like Curtis Stone from Urban Farmer, Matt Powers from Permaculture Student, Justin Rhodes
And the beautiful one,
from Abundant Permaculture, Jason
and Peaches
from Cockhill Farm, Off Grid with Doug and Stacy, M.I. Gardner, and White House on a Hill, just to name a few.
Check out Lumna Acres and Living Traditions too. They're some of my favorites. We're looking forward to the adventures 2019 will bring and are excited to see how the journey continues.
Thanks for watching our videos.
And thanks to our customers and all those who support us.
Happy New Year!